Bruchim Haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Kuf Lamed Ches Amud Aleph, 3 lines from the bottom. The Mishnah had stated that the Chachamim said you cannot set up a strainer on Yontif, and the Gemara said because it's doime mitzas to making an oil arai. The Gemara ultimately said that it's also because of uvdin dechol, because it's only mitzas doime to an oil arai. Al Kolpanim, the Gemara then discuss other types of oil arai. Our Gemara then continues now its discussion of oil arai. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Mishum Rabbi Chia. Rav says in the name of Rabbi Chia, Viloin mutalin toiso mutal lefarkoi. A viloin, which is described as a screen at a doorway, that is mutter to then put up and to take off. According to Shita's Rashi, at least, that there's only ol arai in regards to a gag, but not a wall. Tosfos argues, but that's how Rashi learned, and therefore Tosfos have to learn that only when it's a mechitza that's materes is it going to be aser, otherwise it's mutter. Says the Gemara, V'amar Shmuel Mishum Rabbi Chia. Shmuel now says to Rabbi Chia the following on top of Kuf Lamed Ches Amud Beis: Kilas chasonim mutter lin toisa umutter lefarkoi. A typical kila is a canopy, a regular chuppah, which has 4 different poles with a canopy overhead, classical ol arai. Here, however, the kilas chasonim is different. On the bed, on either side of the bed, there's 1 pole on the head of the bed, 1 pole at the end of the bed, the leg of the bed. And then there's a horizontal pole connecting those 2 vertical poles. If you put a canopy, you put some sort of sheet on top of that, making a triangular canopy, here it says that's mutter to put on and to also to take off. Omer Rav Sheishis b'reid Rav Idi loy amaron ela she'ein begaga tefach aval yesh begaga tefach asur. This is only when at the top there is not a tefach, and therefore it's mutter. If it had a gaga tefach, then it would be also, it would be an oil arai. The Gemara further qualifies and says, "V'chi ein begaga tefach nami loy amoron ela she'ein bepochos bishloisha samuch legaga tefach. Aval yesh bepochos bishloisha samuch legaga tefach asur." Here it's saying not only at the top cannot have a tefach to be mutter, however, even if it goes down within 3 tfachim, it also cannot have a space of a tefach, because that would also be considered to be the gag, since within 3 tfachim is lavud. The Gemara now further qualifies and says, "V'lo amaron ela she'ein b'shipua tefach, aval yesh b'shipua tefach, shipua oilim ke'oilim domu." That which we said now is also only going to be mutter if underneath, after it then slopes down, there isn't beneath a space of a tefach on either side from the middle. Because if it would be, then according to this opinion, then the sloped part would be then viewed actually as the gag and not as the wall, and thereby you would have a problem of an oil as well. And finally, we further clarify and qualify. Even after it goes down, it doesn't have a slope of a tefach on the top and not within 3 tefachim. And it also doesn't then part to be a space of a tefach on each side from the middle. But after it hits, let's say, the bed, which we're talking about a very narrow bed, if it goes down and drapes beneath the bed a tefach, then you have that tefach that it drapes down to be 2 walls, and the bed will be the gag. And therefore you have a problem of an oil as well. This is providing that you want the space underneath the bed. So here we're talking about a very narrow bed, or we're talking about a bed that might be regular, but it has more than 1 of these kilas chasonim on top of the bed because they're very narrow. Says the Gemara weiter, V'omar Rav Sheishis b'reid Rav Idi, Hai sayani shori. A felt hat can be worn on Shabbos. V'ha'itmar si'ana osur. We have another statement saying that a felt hat is osur. Answers the Gemara, Lakasha, it's not a difficulty. Hodi'is beitefach, hodi'is less beitefach. The difference is because the hat that cannot be worn has a full tefach, and therefore it'll be like an oil arai, whereas the hat that can yes be worn on Shabbos is less than a tefach. We're talking about the brim. Ask the Gemara, if that's the distinction, elameato, sharbev beglimo tefach hachanami demechayev. Then if you would extend the cloak, let's say a talis that's on a person's head, and extend that to be a tefach from his head, then also it would be, here's lav dafka demechayev, it would be osir, like an oil arai. And therefore, obviously that can't be the distinction between the two hats. Ella, says the Gemara, lokashia, rather the distinction is as follows. Hod mahadek, hod mahadek. Here the difference is as follows. The hat that is mutter to be worn is because it's held on tightly to the head. Since it's held on tightly, when a wind will blow, it won't blow it off. But if it's not tight, however, it's also because maybe the wind will blow it off. A person will then pick it up and carry Dalet Amos in the Rishus Harabim. So it's not an issue of being an oil arai, but rather it's an issue of another gezerah that maybe a person will then carry Dalet Amos in the Rishus Harabim. Says the Gemara weiter, Sholach le Rami bar Yechezkel le Rav Huna. Rami bar Yechezkel sent Rav Huna the following request: Eimolach, easy, say to us. Easy is referring to Ahuvi, my beloved one. Hanach mili mal yosed amris lo mishmei de Rav. Those choice statements that you had mentioned in the name of Rav. Tarte b'Shabbos v'chade b'Torah. 2 statements regarding Shabbos and 1 statement regarding to the Torah. Sholach le, Rav Huna sent the following: Hodetanyo, that which it states in the Brisa, Goid bekisna muterlin toisa b'Shabbos. Now we said on Amud Aleph that Goid is referring to a leather pouch. When a person would travel, he wouldn't want to get his milk or his wine spoiled. So what he would do was, when he would set his tent up and stay in place for a certain amount of time, a night or more, he would also set on pegs, or stakes, he would set a leather pouch that had a very large opening, and he would put it down on these pegs by stretching it out, and then it would then have the contents of the oil, of the wine rather, of the milk, and the wind would then blow it, keeping it cool. So it says over here that, unlike what we said in the name of Abaye and Amud Aleph, that's also to then make on Shabbos, because that is like an oil arai. Here it says that there are certain straps that are attached to this goid, and it's muter lin toisa b'Shabbos because of the straps. So that's what the Brisa said. Omarav lo shanu ela bebeis bnei adam. Now this Brisa is talking about where it was already situated in its place on the onset of Shabbos, and you can go ahead and pull it a little bit wider, but that's what the Brisa says. Rav qualifies, and he argues actually on the Brisa, and he states the following qualification: Omar Rav lo shanu ela bebeis bnei adam aval be'adam echad osur. He explains rather the Brisa as follows, that we're talking about where there's 2 people that are holding these straps. That's when it's mutter. But if it was one person, it would be also, because by one person doing it, he would tie it more tightly, and therefore it'll be problem to be doime like an oil arai. Whereas if 2 people are doing it, wouldn't have the comparison to an oil arai. Omar Abaye. V'kila afilu beyod b'nei adam osir. If it was a kila, Abaye says even 10 people, it would still be osir. Why? Because it would be impossible that it wouldn't get stretched a little bit, and therefore that would make it like an oil arai. Now it could be that the explanation is not that it's an oil arai itself, when it has the straps of this pouch, we're talking about where it was already set up on the onset of Shabbos, so therefore we're talking about being moisif on an oil array. On that, Rav says that if it's two people, then it's going to be mutter. However, it's going to be one person, then it will be osir. Says the Gemara, Vayter Amar, Idach Maihi, what is the other statement that was made? In addition to the first statement in regards to Shabbos, there's another statement, the Tanya. It says in the Braisa, Kiro shenishmeta achas miyarkoiseho muter l'taltelish shtayim osir. The Tanna Kama over here says that if you have an oven and it misses one leg breaks of the oven, so it's still usable, and therefore, although it's something that is a klisha malachta le'iser, but if you need its makoim, the place where the tanur is situated, you can move it on Shabbos. So Tanna Kama says that's true when it loses one leg. But if it loses two legs, then it becomes muktzah because it's no longer a viable tanur. Rav Omar, afilu chad nami osir, gzeir shemi yiska. Rav argues, and he says no, that even if he only has one leg, so one leg itself is a problem because a person might fix it to the point where he'll then put it into place very strongly, and therefore he'll be masaking the kli. So Rav is the Tana Upalig, even though he's an Amor, but he's considered to be a Tana Upalig. He argues on the Tana of this Braisa. The third statement is as follows. Torah, Do Omar Rav said, Asida Torah tishtachach mi Yisrael. In the future, the Torah will be forgotten from Klal Yisrael. Shneimar says in the Pasuk, V'hifla Hashem es ma'koischa. Hashem will make an extraordinary punishment. This is a statement that's made in the Toichacha, in the Klalos. V'hafla zu eini yodea mahu. I don't know what type of extraordinary makkah we're referring to. Kishu oimer, when it says in the Pasuk, Lochein hineni yoisif lahafli esa'am, hazeh hafla v'fela. When it makes that statement, Have Omer Hafla Zu Torah, because the end of that pasuk states Hafla v'fela va'avdo chachmas chachamov ubinas nevoinot histatar, that the wisdom of the wise men will be then destroyed. So it refers to this Hifla Hashem es ma'koischa as the Torah being forgotten from Klal Yisrael. Tonu Rabbanon, the Gemara brings a brayso, Kishenichnesu Rabbusein lekerem b'Yavne, when the Chachamim came to the yeshiva in Yavne, it's called Kerem B'Yavne because it was like a vineyard in the sense that there was rows and rows of Talmidim, of Rabbonim, in the Beis HaMedrash of Yavne. Omeru, they said, Asida Torah titishtachach mi Yisrael. In the future, the Torah will be forgotten by Klal Yisrael. Shneimar says in the following pasuk, Hine yomim boimnu Hashem Elokim. Hashem says there are going to be days that will be coming. V'hishlachti ro'ov bart, and I will send a famine in the land. Lo ro'ev lo lechem v'lo tzom l'mayim. It's not going to be a hunger for food or thirst for water. Kim l'shmoy es divrei Hashem, but for listening to the Dvar Hashem. V'ksiv, it states, v'no miyam ad yom umitzofim v'ad mizrach, and they will travel from sea to sea, and from the north until the east. Yishoytetu levakesh Dvar Hashem v'lo yimtzou, and they will seek out the Dvar Hashem and they will not find it. Dvar Hashem zu halacha, referring to the halacha of the Torah. They're not going to find it. Dvar Hashem zehaketz, referring to the end of times, the end of Golus. Dvar Hashem zu nevuah, referring to the end of the nevuah. Umay yishoytetu levakesh as Dvar Hashem. Was it referring to they're going to wander to seek out the Dvar Hashem and they will not find it? Amru, they said, Asida isha shetitol kikar shel truma. A woman will take a kikar, a loaf of bread that was in a tanur, and will have a suffix whether this loaf of bread is tamei or not. A sheretz went into the ceramic tanur, and she wants to know, is this kikar going to be tamei? She want to know if this kikar of bread, the loaf of bread, is tamei or tohor. And there will be nobody tell her whether it's indeed one way or the other. Ask the Gemara, wait a second, but it says explicitly in the Torah, Here the Torah tells you that's going to be Tomei. I'll read you the pasuk. Mikol ha'oichel asher ye'ochel asher yava alav mayim yitma. Kol mashke asher yishase bekol kli yitma. So it says explicitly in the pasuk, so that can't be forgotten, because then it could be then sought out and determined from the pasuk itself. Ela leida im rishoino hi v'im shniya hi ve'ein mevin. Rather, she want to know if this loaf of bread is tamei as a tamei rishon letuma, or sheni letuma. Ask the Gemara, Hanami masnisani, but there's also an explicit Mishnah. Kedisnan, it states, Hasheret shenimtza betanur. If a sheretz, a dead sheretz, which is an avatuma, is found in a ceramic tanur, which means that the airspace of the tanur becomes tamei, even without touching the tanur, itself will metamei the tanur. Hapasha besoicha shniya shahatanur tchila. Since the tanur is a rishon letuma from the sheretz, so then the pas becomes a sheni. So how could it be that you're going to then have a suffix about an explicit mishnah that also cannot be forgotten? It's written down afterwards. They had the following suffix. That which Rabbi Ada bar Ava said to Rava, the following suffix in regards to this tanur that had dead sheretz in it. Let us view this tanur as being filled with tamei. The tuma of the sheretz fills it up as if it's touching the tanur. That's why it's metame. Whereby the pas that's inside of it will also become a rishon letuma. Or malei lo yamrino lichzei hai tanur kiman de mali tuma. We don't view the tanur as if it's filled with tuma because a dead sheretz is in the airspace of that tanur. The Tanya, because it says in the following brayso, Yochol, I might think you kol hakelim mitamin be'avir kli cheres, that if you have a kli inside of the avir of the kli cheres, it will also become tameg. Dahainu, I might think like this havamina is that the entire airspace becomes tameg, whereby it's as if it's touching whatever's inside of it, including the kli. Tamu loymar, therefore it says, kol asher besoichoi yitma, only that which is inside of it will become tamei. That means what? It'll become a rishon letuma. It will become tamei as a result of the rishon betuma. Mikol ha'oichel asher ye'ochel, from all of the oichel, meaning oichel mitamin ba'avir kli acheres. Only the oichel will become a rishon of the avir ha'cheres. But the kelim themselves will not become a rishon of the avir of the kli cheres. They will not become tamei unless they come in contact with an avatuma. So therefore, it cannot be as if we view that when a dead sheretz is in the ceramic tanur, that it's filling the entire space with tuma, and thereby making the bread a rishon letuma. Instead, it's making the kli cheres, the tanur, in a rishon letuma, whereby the kli cheres tanur makes the bread inside of it a sheni letuma. Says Gemara weiter, Tanya Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai Oimer, Chas v'sholom shetistakach term Yisrael. Chas v'sholom that the star should be forgotten by Klal Yisrael. Shnimar says in the pasuk, Ki lo tishokach mi pizaro. The Torah will not be forgotten by Klal Yisrael. Elamayim mekayim shoytit levakesh et dvar Hashem v'lo yimtzou. What do I then do with the pasuk that we quoted before, that they will wander around to then seek out the dvar Hashem, referring to the halach, the Torah, and they will not find it? Shelo yimtzu, we're on top of Kuf Lamed Tes Amud Aleph, halacha brua u'mishnah brua b'makom echad. They're not going to find a teaching with the tamei of the halacha that's going to be unanimous. They're not going to be disputed in one place. That's what it's meant. So Yoshim Yochai, that means to say that they will then seek out the Dvar Hashem and they will not find it.